how responsive has Walz been to the pushback, to the resistance? Because that's one of the arguments is that on gun reform, for example, he's come a long way in terms of having a more reasonable and humane and principled approach on guns. We've seen other people have reasonable, principled, humane approaches develop over time on abortion rights or on environmental justice and etc. Is he one of those people on the question of Palestine?
So, okay, I'm going to answer this in two ways. The short answer is no, he has not been responsive. The long answer is yes, if he has been responsive, though, that is not a testament to his virtue, but the effectiveness of our campaigns, of our grassroots campaigns. So I guess going first to the first part of the question, has he been responsive? So there was kind of a big scandal that happened a few weeks ago. He canceled a meeting on the spot, like literally on the spot, like we were in the office ready to meet with Governor Walz. A group of Gazan families and Palestinian families, including myself, were there. He canceled the meeting on the spot because what had happened was, now mind you, let me just back up a little bit. We had been trying to meet with him for over 10 months. We've been requesting meetings nonstop, and we've just continuously, been dismissed, emails ignored, phone calls ignored, what have you. So at last we get a meeting finally scheduled. And this is, mind you, 10 months into the genocide. And right away after October 7th, he was visiting synagogues. Right away, he was attending Stand With Israel rallies. So clearly he has the capacity to show up for his constituents. But he didn't do it with us. So we're like, all right, finally, it's July. We're going to get a meeting with the governor. Let's see what this is going to be like. So we come into the room. We're meeting with staffers first. It's like a pre-meeting. And the staffers ask us what it is that we actually want to talk about. And as soon as some of us answered and said, well, we don't want to just, give our victim stories and lead with our victimhood and cry and sob for the photo ops. Like, we want to actually talk about material change. We want to talk about solutions.
Right.
Two staffers got up, left the room, come back 20 minutes later, and then they're like, well, the meeting is canceled. Like,
and what reason did they give you?
Yeah, they just totally can't. And they tried to play it super diplomatically. They tried to, use this nice, optimistic sounding language. And they were like, we're really sorry about this. We care about you guys, but it's just process and we have to think about it. And this is like goes through a different, a different group of staffers. And it's just a more
they said you booked a meeting with the public relations department, not the change public policy department. That's a whole different.
I mean, literally one of the staffers, I am not making this up, Mark, just verbatim says, we thought you guys were going to talk about your stories. We didn't think you guys were going to talk about divestment. Wow. Like, and, I chimed in right away and I was like, so hold on. You want us to just cry out for you guys, to just play the sob stories, but you don't actually want to talk about how we can rectify these situations? That's too far? No, it was very clear that it was all a PR stunt, right? It was very clear that what they wanted was to get the photo op and like, Walz can check it off his list of marginalized communities that he's been ignoring for months. Right. So anyway, but that's a tangent there. But that story is, I think, very indicative of what Walz has done repeatedly for months. He has ignored his constituents. So many people have been reaching out to him, asking him for meetings, emailing him. He has ignored all of it. I've called so many times and I have been ignored every single time. There was an event that happened back in January. It's like MLK breakfast.
I just want to remind the audience that you are coming from the American Muslims for Palestine. And the reason I'm saying that is because I don't want people to hear, well, the governor can't answer every citizen's call, because I don't want them to misrepresent what you're saying. You're not saying in some vain or narcissistic way that the governor should be answering you. You're saying you represent a constituency and a movement and a significant organization that is being ignored by the governor.
Yeah, and just to be clear, when I say I'm actually saying I kind of generically. I do mean the movement. Like we've had memorials for folks in Minnesota that have lost over 30 in Gaza. He hasn't come out to any of these services, but he came, as I said, to the Stand With Israel rally right away. So anyway, there's been, the thing I was mentioning earlier, we were at an event called MLK Breakfast, which like every politician and their mom goes to it.
They all show up to the MLK Breakfast. That's the safe one. That's like kissing a baby.
So we go up to Governor Walz, and one of my colleagues, very simple question, just asked him, hey, Governor, how can you be memorializing MLK if you're investing my tax dollars into the murder of Palestinians? And then he says, well, you can shoot me an email and we'll talk about it. And then as soon as I chime in, this is on video, by the way, it's on our Instagram. We posted the video because we did record it. As soon as I chime in and say, well, we've been emailing and we want to know, he looks right at me, goes, thank you, and then just walks away.
Wow.
Like straight up walks away. And so we were following. So these are two examples of how he has just really, really done a great job of avoiding his constituents. But kind of to the second part of the question, kind of going back to your point about Josh Shapiro, is like, Walz the better option? Has he moved? Does he have a capacity to move based on grassroots efforts? If he has moved, and the only time he did utter the word Gaza, it was after the primaries when 1 in 5 Minnesota Democrats voted uncommitted. He got up on CNN the next day.
Right.
Got up on CNN the next day, and he's just like, for the very first time, he's all like, the situation in Gaza is intolerable, and we got to get them back. We got to get those voters back. And that's just like right there. It's like, that's the direct admission to the fact that the trajectory of the Democratic Party, the political climate has changed so much. And if Walz is moving, if Kamala is moving, if whoever is moving, they have pretty much admitted that it is because of the fact that they know that it's not sexy to be a Zionist in the Democratic Party anymore.
Right. And that's promising in a way. I mean, obviously you want the candidate that opposes genocide because it's a moral atrocity and because it's wrong, not just because it's bad for business. But there are some candidates who won't move even if it is bad for business. I mean, Joe Biden's legacy will be that even when it was very clear that standing next to Netanyahu was a losing enterprise, he still said, I'm going to stand here. At moments where it was clear that people were excited and encouraged. For example, when he said, not another weapon gets funded or sent to Israel if there is an invasion of Rafah. People applauded. And then by like the next Tuesday, what did we see? Weapons to Rafah. It's almost as if he didn't have the capacity to actually stare Netanyahu down. He didn't have the capacity to separate from what was an obvious genocide. So I don't take for granted that all politicians are going to even move when the pressure says move.